guys, and welcome back to the LadyTech Africa podcast. And I'm your host, Lerato Boikanyo. And this is still the Future Forward series, which was created in celebration of the National Science Week, with this year's theme being Living in a High-Tech World. Should we be concerned? Now, this was created to be a 4-part series, and today is the 4th and final installment of this series. And we hope that you've been listening and you've been enjoying the different topics that we've been talking about that relate to this year's theme. Now, having said that, if you are not following us on our social media platforms, perhaps you don't know that LadyTech Africa is not just a YouTube channel or a podcast, but it is an organization that is dedicated to bridging the knowledge and skills gap as far as STEM careers and STEM studies are concerned. So we are mainly focused at bringing this knowledge to young women and girls, particularly from townships. And LadyTech Africa was initiated or started based on my own experience growing up in the township where there's lack of representation. So people that look like me, that are pursuing careers that are outside of the careers that we know about, which is, teaching, nurses, police, even doctors, because those are the people that we see, and it's easy to be inspired by them. So LadyTech Africa was then created, realizing that gap, that one, there isn't representation of women that are pursuing careers that we are not naturally exposed to, but also bridging the knowledge and skills gap. Now, growing up in the township, there isn't a lot of information that's accurate information that's being shared about these careers, what they entail, what it means to be a STEM professional, or what it means to be a professional in tech. Also, LadyTech Africa advocates for the visibility of women in the industry. So over and above the YouTube channel, we also are an actual organization that does different things to bring the awareness of careers in the in STEM fields to young women and girls from the township. Initially, it was intended to be careers only in the tech industry, but having engaged with students from schools in the township, I realized that there's a wider and greater need to just promote STEM careers and subjects, and why it's important for them to pursue even those careers. Now, coming back to the Future Forward series, this year's theme was quite interesting and thought-provoking. And we thought, why not create a series where we talk about these different things that are impacting the world as we know it today? And obviously now living in a highly digitized world, what are the things that we should be looking out for in our personal lives, but also in terms of whether you are a professional or whether you are a business person? What are the things that you should be thinking about? Now, someone always said, Nozipho Shabalala always says that conversation is the birthplace of action. So this is why this series was mainly created, to get these conversations going and hopefully ignite something either in organizations or people. Now, we've had 3 different guests in the past episodes of this series, and the first person that we had on the podcast was Sibahle Magadla. And with Sibahle, we discussed understanding local and societal dependencies on technology. So the impacts of technology for economic development and growth. And she highlighted some important information, or shared rather, really intriguing insights in terms of looking at technology from an economic development perspective. She shared insights around, agriculture being one of the industries or sectors where investments will be coming into, and due to climate change, due to issues that we know about around climate change and how it's getting harder and harder for humans, for us to create food, So we are looking for technology to assist us, even in regard to us the ability of human beings to create food and to manufacture food. She also touched on industrial hubs, have those markets where, the entire ecosystem of creating products exists. So even though you are manufacturing one thing, but you also see how it is distributed, for example. And also, I think one important aspect that she highlighted was in these industrial hubs, also having kind of like colleges or institutions, whatever you may call it, that where students, even as students go to get the education, they are kind of exposed to what it will look like once they are finished, with whatever it is that they are studying. So I found that to be important because, one of the main things for LadyTech Africa is creating these ecosystems. Obviously, our focus is on high school students mostly. So creating the ecosystems that enable them, that enable the holistic development of the students, but also in that creating the direct pipeline into institutions post-matric or post-high school, and hopefully that pipeline will then lead into, the workforce. So yeah, we are at the beginning of the ecosystem, I suppose. And then the second guest that we had on the series, we had Nerushka Bowen, and with Nerushka, we discussed the ethical technology use, right? Balancing innovation with responsibility. We touched on the legal frameworks that exist in order to govern these innovations that are coming about, all of these technology advancements. When we look at it from a legal standpoint, what are the things that, we need to be worried about, especially as far as data is concerned, managing people's data or managing people's information? And also she touched on, I think also this episode made me realize just how limited my own knowledge around also AI, which is, a technology or a tool that we are talking and hearing about a lot now. So she made me realize just how my knowledge is also limited when it comes to artificial intelligence. And being in the tech industry, you take advantage of thinking that what is happening in the industry, what everyone else is talking about. But listening to that, or rather speaking to Nerushka about, artificial intelligence and some of the challenges that we are seeing there, or some of the good things that are coming out of artificial intelligence, she made me realize that I also need to go and build my own AI acumen, right? So that I have a true understanding of what it actually is, how it's impacting the world, how it's impacting the marketplace, but also for businesses, what does it mean? And also personally for me, what does AI mean for my own career? What does AI mean for businesses? So she opened my mind up to all of those things and some of the challenges. I think one of the things that got me intrigued with our discussion was around having data available for research purposes, right? And she just highlighted some key points, and she explained, she gave us insights around the challenges when it comes to what these models are trained on, specifically your generative AI, so your ChatGPT. The information that they are trained on isn't always accurate, and there's challenges within the African continent of having the data available for research purposes and also for training the models, because the models are trained on historical information. But I think one key thing as well that comes with generative AI is the ability for it to also kind of like focus on the future. So in future, what can things look like. So that was quite interesting for me, and the privacy laws around all of that. And also she highlighted that some of the challenges that she's seen, because she's been involved in research work, is how within South Africa, we have amazing startup founders, amazing people creating really amazing solutions, and they face challenges when it comes to getting funding outside of the country. So that was something that I personally didn't know about, and it was interesting to find that out. And now moving on to the third interview that we had, where we unpacked the concept of disruptive technology. I also found this one, I think this one was my comfort zone, because you work in the industry, and some of the topics that we covered or what we covered during the discussion, I found it to be interesting how, especially looking at how cloud was also one of the technologies that disrupted, industries, disrupted organization, how they work and how they saw infrastructure, right? We talked about a lot of things. She even mentioned that when she was working as a architect, getting solutions from creating the servers, what they'd look like, and the costing that goes into the technology. Companies used to pay millions and millions. And what cloud technology has done is cut some costs, but getting more, companies are getting more out of what they would have paid naturally. But also what it's enabled us to do. We touched briefly in terms of data, because as we know, as technology is advancing and innovating, it's relying more and more on data. Now, data not only needs to be available, but that data needs to be stored somewhere as well, right? And she spoke about how, AWS is ensuring that, or not ensuring, but looking at like how AWS technology enables organization to be able to store even large amounts of data, which was interesting. And then her job is amazing, right? Because she gets to travel, well, not just travel, but also engage with different developer communities across the world. And she spoke about a group of developers that that solve real life problems. And that was quite amazing. And how technology advancements as well are actually making technology accessible, even to people that wouldn't generally have access to these resources. It's technology is also coming and creating that access, or giving us access. Now, this series has been very insightful. I hope that you go back and you listen to the different episodes. There's a lot of insights that these ladies shared. Now, looking forward, what are my own views pertaining to living in a high-tech world? Now, the more technology is getting sophisticated, and, things are getting digitized, my view is that humanity, or the human element, is becoming increasingly more important, right? Because I believe that even it doesn't matter how sophisticated a robot can do certain things, but it means then that the human element is becoming more important. And I also just want to talk about, when you look at, we are now moving into an era where we need to relook at our skill set, especially if you are in the industry, but also even in other industries, right? Because technology is at the intersection of all other industries. So it doesn't matter what other career paths that you have, technology will always be at the intersection of those industries. Now, having said that, what technology is doing, or how we should be looking at our careers moving forward, is that I think it's becoming more important to reskill. As the technology is becoming more sophisticated, it's becoming even more important for us to look at our own careers and to see what are the changes happening? So there's three elements when I was thinking around this, right? There's your immediate environment. So whether it's business, but I'll speak more in respect of careers. So in your immediate, so whatever organization you are working at, you need to be always alert and seeing what advancements are happening there, and if your skill set is still fit for that. Now, secondly, you need to look at whatever industry, right, that you are working in. What are the technological advancements that are happening there, and what new skill is required to navigate that industry? And then you look at yourself to see that are my skills still fit according to the industry that I'm in. Then you look at globally, what are the technological trends that are happening around the world, and how are these trends impacting my own career, my own where I view myself or where I see my career growing. So those are all the elements that we need to be looking at. But then I also looked at the impact of junior employees, as you are coming into the workforce. Obviously, with technology, a lot of jobs within the tech space are becoming remote, some hybrid, which means then it's making it even more challenging for those that are coming into the industry to build the foundational skills that are required to navigate corporate, to navigate dealing with different people, right? There's just certain soft skills that are also very important to navigate our careers, right? Because there's certain things that you learn by interacting and engaging with people that the digital world or the hybrid and remote work is not allowing us or not affording us the opportunity to do that. Relationship building, right, is an important soft skill that we all need, irrespective of how good we are technically, irrespective of how good we are in doing the actual job. But you also need the relationships, right, which remote work doesn't afford us that opportunity. So I'm seeing challenges there as the new people are getting skilled. Yes, you may come in as the person that knows the latest technology in and out, but you need the people in your organization. So I see challenges there. Mostly the foundational skills that you build. So stakeholder management, relationship building, and also that peer mentorship, right? Because there's just how we used to learn from our peers is no longer the same, because your colleague is no longer sitting next to you and you can just nudge them when you are looking for information or when you seek clarity, or even learning from how they do things, right, in the background. So those small nuanced elements of navigating corporate careers are being taken away by this highly digitization. So it then becomes more important for you as the person to try and look and see how do you close those gaps for yourself. So that's just something I wanted to add. And another thing is that I'm noting, it's coming with new opportunities. Yes, I know how it's communicated in the news and social media. It gives the impression that all of this technology advancements is going to take away from us instead of give us something. But even if we look at the cloud example, for example, there's a lot of careers that never existed before the cloud, like your cloud engineers, your DevOps engineers. Those careers never existed when some of us were starting out. But now, those are the most sought after skill set in the tech industry. So as the more technology is advancing, we'll then start seeing a lot of jobs being created as well along with it, which is why I mentioned earlier that it's gonna be even more important for us to start looking at reskilling ourselves, right? And I think the nature of the marketplace or the nature of jobs is calling for us to be agile and not be too married to how we view our careers. This is how I thought my career was going to go, but being open, because our careers now they are no longer the same, where you get your qualification, you work at X company for years on end, and you don't move. So it's calling for us to be agile in how we look at our careers and our skill set. So this series has been really exciting. I hope that you've learned a lot, and I'm looking forward to the future series that we'll have in the coming year. So yeah, make sure that you are following us on our social media platforms. We are LadyTech Africa everywhere. LadyTech Africa on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. That's where we are most active. And also suggest to us what you want to hear us speak about on the podcast and even on our YouTube channel, because the YouTube channel was created to cover STEM careers. So the journeys there and the careers that exist to cover leadership content. So especially for the early leaders, like how do you get into leadership roles and how do you navigate that space and position yourself for more senior leadership roles? And then the third element of our YouTube channel is going to be personal and professional development. Right? There's certain things that we do in order to develop ourselves. So we look at that, the different things, like, we often hear people speaking about mentorship, but also I think we talk less about getting coaching. Coaching is really important. I believe that coaches move you from knowing more than you would have known to actually doing. So let us know what other topics you want us to cover on the podcast, what other topics you want us to cover on our YouTube channel, and what you thought of the series that we created. We hope that you enjoyed the series and see you at the next series. So make sure that you are subscribed to our YouTube channel, that you are following us on all your podcasting platforms, and that you are downloading and leaving reviews. Tell us what you think. And if you want to get in touch with us, you can reach us on info@ladytechafrica.com. info@ladytechafrica.com. See you on the next series.